Zachary Levi, the voice of Flynn Rider, finally gets his shot to lead a big superhero blockbuster. So let's talk about it. When a 14-year-old boy in the foster care system is chosen to receive godlike powers from a wizard, he must learn how to use his powers to stop an evil doctor. The latest film in the DCEU continues down the more comedic path that they started with Aquaman, but does it work? I'll tell you my take in just a second, but first join me down in the comment section. If you've seen it, tell me what did you think about it? And if you haven't seen it yet, are you excited for it? Does it look weird? Does it look awesome? I'd love to have a nice lively discussion with you about this film. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. And the first thing that comes to mind is that once again, we're getting a new direction for this very saturated genre. This one, it's kind of like the movie Big, except as a superhero film. And that's something we haven't seen before inside of this genre. And to lead the film, they got the perfect actor in Zachary Levi, who has a youthful charisma about him, and he can pull off being a 14-year-old boy. He has the kind of frantic energy. He has the ADD nature about him, and he can pull off just this sense of innocence about him while being mischievous at the same time. Along those same lines, the humor here is mostly on point. The idea of Big as a superhero movie is just obviously ripe with comedic opportunities, and this movie tries to take advantage of every single one of them from beginning to the end of the film. Sometimes in superhero films, the comedy kind of goes to the back seat once you get to the third act and the action takes the front seat. This movie finds ways to continue being funny in the third act of the film. It has some twists and turns that it throws in the mix that keep the humor coming. Now, not all the humor landed 100% for me, especially kind of with the kids' humor. Their delivery wasn't always there, but it always has a nice charm to it, even if it's not as funny as it possibly could be. The movie also has a lot of heart. Billy Batson has a full character arc throughout the film, and it's his character arc that informs the superhero arc and his origin story as a child superhero. There's also a lot of poignant moments about family and finding belonging, and the family dynamics throughout the entire film hit really well. Another thing is that I enjoyed the way some of the special effects in Superpowers looked inside of the film. What I mean by that, not that it's necessarily like Oscar-worthy special effects, but like the way they visualized the super speed, the flight, I thought it just had a nice look to it. They did something about it that was just a little bit different from what we've seen other people do with super speed and flight that just looked nice to me. And one final thing with this film is that they kept several surprises inside of the film a secret. There's a number of big, gigantic elements inside of this film that have not even been hinted at inside of the trailers. The trailers accurately represent the sequences in the film, the direction that it goes, what the film is like, but there's definitely still some surprises in the mix. From there, let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. Now, these aren't good or bad things, but just to inform you about some things about the film, there are some DCEU connections inside the film, and essentially it's just that you're living in a world where people know about Batman, Superman, the Justice League, all of those characters, and then the film has a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. I didn't think that either one of them were particularly good, memorable, or anything like that, but they do exist. From there, let's move on to the negative. And the big thing that comes to mind is that the film feels a little bit confused as to who its target audience is and what tone it's going for. About 80% of the film is pretty family friendly that I would have been comfortable taking my 5-year-old to go see the film. And then there's about 10% that would have probably been a little bit uncomfortable. And then there's another 10% that's definitely not appropriate for the age of my children. And what I mean by that is that you've got all these sequences in the film with Zachary Levi acting like a kid in a big muscle suit, cracking jokes about not knowing how to pee in his costume that my 5-year-old would love. And then you also have realistic car crashes, scary monsters, and strip club humor. And they're just kind of side by side inside the film. Another weak spot is the villain inside the film, which is frustrating because at the start of the movie, I thought they did a really good job of helping us understand where he's coming from. But as soon as he kind of turns into the super villain, he goes full mustache twirling villain that's just out for more power and doing evil with no clear motivation or direction or mission besides getting more power. And then there's also some unforgivable lapses in the logic of the film. To just give one example that's in the trailers, there's a scene where a bus goes off a bridge and Shazam catches it, but he catches it by the glass of the windshield, which in the context of the movie or just in general makes absolutely no sense. There's a lot of things like that where you're like, why didn't you just have him catch it by the metal? You could have done this exact same thing and it would have made sense, but it's like they just didn't put thought into those little details that can pull you out of it if you kind of think a specific way. Likewise with Billy Batson's kind of character arc throughout of it, there's a few times where I was like, I don't think that's how that works. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. Real quick before I give my final thoughts on this one, tell me, what did you think about it if you've seen it, or what are you excited for if you haven't seen it? Also, after this video, check out this playlist up above with all of my different rankings of the DCEU films up to this point in time, the movies, the heroes, the villains. It's all up there in that playlist, or if you wait a couple more weeks, I'm gonna update all of those videos once this movie is released to the public. While it's not an instant classic, it is very entertaining and hits a lot of the right emotional notes. It's a B+ overall, 8.5 on the entertainment scale, and I would definitely say you should go see it. Remember to check out that playlist right over there of my DCEU rankings. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.